Okay. Do you have anything now you would like to expand
Matthew,
upon?
did Matthew start? Are we recording?
He says, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so today's meditation, we're again beginning to look at some of the underpinnings of meditation, of mindfulness meditation, and today we're doing something on breath. Now, breath is of all the components of yoga, of mindfulness meditation, of any discipline that invites us to be present, your breath is your best friend. So if you look, breath is associated with spirit in every tradition. So pranayam, the breath practice is how to increase your energy. Your chi in qigong tightly tied to your breathing. So what is it about breath? Breath is the whole cycle. It teaches you everything you need to know about life because it is the yin and the yang, and it's always present. So the Buddhists talk about taking refuge in your breath. And what they mean is whatever is going on externally, your breath is always present if you tune into it. So several things happen when you tune into your breath. First of all, you're coming into the present moment. If you've got problems like PTSD, if you're having obsessive thoughts, those things can't continue if your mind is focused on the present moment. So the monkey mind, the traumatized mind are not in present moment. That's a different part of your brain. So this is something I don't have to go find a place to sit. I don't have to turn on music. I don't have to do anything. Just tune into your breath. So when you tune into your breath, you're going to notice that breath has two components. It has a conscious component and an unconscious component, which means you can consciously choose to breathe in, out, or you can simply allow your breath to breathe itself. So most of the time during the day, your unconscious mind is breathing itself. Does that make sense? So one of the hardest things that you'll notice is when you're trying to relate to your breath, trying to let your breath find its own natural rhythm can trip people up. How many of you have trouble that the minute you say, I'm going to let it find its own natural rhythm, my mind starts controlling it? So you've got something here that teaches you how to let go of control, how to just allow the breath. So if all you do in your meditation is allow your breath to breathe itself, you're practicing mindfulness. You're practicing some very profound skills at letting go of control. The other thing is the in breath. What is the first act of life that you have?
Inhale.
You inhale. Okay.
It's just a cry.
This is the breath of life. Okay. What is your last act of life? The exhale. So you have life and death in every breath. Okay. The in breath is the breath of life. The out breath is the breath of death. So you can do the whole cycle of drawing in, okay, receiving life abundantly, and you can actually feel a subtle increase in energy as you inhale. And here comes Rachel. Hey, girl. And at the same time with letting go, you're practicing dying. So you can add that phase into it. Feel life coming into me, receiving the gift of life, and also giving it back. So one of the things I like to add on in meditation from Father Kennedy is that idea that the moon is the perfect expression of spirituality. She takes all the light that the sun gives her and she reflects it all back. Okay. So you can be mindful and grateful for the gift of life and breath as you breathe consciously. Does that make sense? To be grateful, be receiving the gift of life, but then I'm also giving all that energy back, keeping nothing for myself. Inhale, exhale. So you have the whole sine wave of life in the breath. So you take the yin and the yang and their intersection, you flip it over like this, and you've got a sine wave. So on the breath starts, it peaks. Here you begin the exhale, okay? It goes all the way down. At the bottom, you begin the inhale. So as you're riding this wave, you can also begin to see that pattern, the actual dharma of all opposites are united. There's not a right place in the breath. There's not a wrong place in the breath. We can identify differences, but it's a seamless whole, if that makes any sense. So when you're practicing riding the waves, you're practicing riding the waves of breath. You're just allowing it, getting used to settling into the lows. Now, Linnell just led a meditation on breath this week that I wanted to bring up. Who was it? Was it Duyard on the breath?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you share with them what he was saying, a variation on 3-part breath.
Yes. So the article that I read in yoga class, he labeled it lateral breathing. Is that what you wanted me to expand
I want
on?
you to do the one about the full out
About
breath.
the exhale.
Right.
Okay, well, that is a little bit of this. So most of you know in yoga, there's a 3-part breath, a big inhale, and then a very slow exhalation, which stimulates the vagus nerve. In this article, he states that perhaps the exhale is more important than the inhale. That unless you exhale completely, empty out the lungs completely, then you can't inhale completely if the lungs aren't completely emptied. So by exhaling and really emptying out the lungs, there are many benefits to this physically. Then you create more capacity for a big inhalation. So it's a healthier style of breathing. Obviously, this isn't something you're going to default to throughout your day, but it's a good practice now and again to consciously empty out your lungs in that exhalation.
Right.
So I just guide my yogis on the exhale, make it long, slow, steady breath, and then keep exhaling. You could even squeeze the belly button toward the spine to empty out those lower parts of the lungs, lobes of the lungs, which don't often get emptied.
So again, you say, what does this have to do with living life? One of the things that we don't do is we don't empty. We have a fear of emptiness, an unconscious fear of emptiness, and it extends to the breath. To really force yourself to fully exhale, to fully empty, watch how hard that is to do. Have any of you really tried to empty like that and do the bandha at the end of it, the constriction to hold it? And hold that until you feel that wanting to draw the breath. In spirituality, we say you have to fully empty of self to fully receive the gift of life. So one way of looking at this is to watch the ego, watch anything you're holding on to in this moment, totally empty, okay? And that's the secret to more fully receiving what's out there. So the first act is empty, then fill. Totally counterintuitive. We're always trying to fill first before we've emptied, but that we're so full of the crap that we're carrying. This is why getting rid of those negative energies that we're holding is so important, because until that stuff gets cleared out, we don't have room to receive the good stuff.
And this is why yoga really brings it forward. Swami Kripalu's quote, which I'll sort of estimate, is that the postures are created to churn the breath. So when you root down and rise up and take a deep breath in, and then you go into a twist and exhale, the posture is aiding you in that cleaning out,
Right.
that emptying out. It's squeezing out. Same thing in a side bend or a forward bend. If you think about it, the postures are created to churn the breath. So I love that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, some things on different levels for those of you who are meditating. Some of you are beginners, some of you are more advanced. Just little things to play with. So the breath always has. There's an old story, one of Ajna's favorite, about a student who comes to his master and says, "I really have trouble focusing on my breath. My breath is not that interesting." And the teacher says, "Well, come with me." Takes him over to a horse trough, sticks his head underwater, and the guy starts struggling for breath, and he keeps holding him under until he finally gasps and inhales water, pulls his head out, and says, "How interesting was that breath?" Okay. So again, part of what it's teaching us is the judgmental mind wants to wander, wants to say this is important, that's important. Entering in and keeping that active interest on what's in front of you. That's why we meditate in front of walls, is to keep that interest up. At the same time, there's nothing for the mind to grasp onto. So relaxed, engaged, active interest, learning to take interest in the vitality of the energy in this moment. That's where the mystery is. It's not in the extraordinary moments. It's in feeling the energy that's present in the room you're in, the energy in your body, the mingling and the flow of those energies. I don't know if y'all can see the goosebumps on my leg. It just, it's delicious. It's a banquet, a giant energy banquet. And being in the flow of that energy is totally fulfilling. Totally fulfilling. It's the most amazing aspect of living that you can do is to dance that energy in that moment. So this is the opening door.
I don't have a bell.
We don't need a bell.
Okay, her or his breath meditation's about 11 minutes, called Mindfulness of Breath.
Who's got a meditation?
You know what?
timer?
I can do a bowl from the phone.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
all right. So I don't know if it's Tara or
I
Jack.
think it's
but
Jack.
Here we go.
In this session, we will focus on the most universal of mindfulness practices, awareness of breath. Your body is always breathing, and this ever-changing breath connects you with the exhaling and inhaling of trees and the wild and cool winds that sweep across the land. We breathe together with all that lives. Becoming mindful of our breathing can calm and steady our attention. It can improve our ability to focus on whatever we're doing, strengthening our capacity to work, to study, to heal. Cultures from Africa and India to China and Brazil have used breath practices for centuries. Scientific research at the University of California has shown that mindfulness of breathing increases the capacity to remain alert and present in the moment. During these next 4 sessions of Mindfulness Daily, we will focus on this very important foundational skill, supported by the relaxed presence and attitude of kindness that we learned in the first sessions. And by learning to steady our attention on the breath, we will then use this focused awareness to become mindful of our thoughts, feelings, and sensations, and of our interactions with others. This opens us to a freedom of choice. Here are a couple of examples. When your anxious sister calls several times a day, What do you do when yet another call comes in late in the evening? Or when a difficult boss dumps a big job on you just as the weekend begins? How do you respond? Explode in anger? Here's what you can do. First, pause for a moment and just breathe. Taking a deep, slow, conscious breath helps to even out the ragged breath of frustration and slows down the heartbeat. This moment of breathing opens you to the possibility of choosing how best to respond, hopefully more clearly, wisely, and kindly. Mindfulness of breathing is not about controlling the breath. It is about being aware of what the breath is actually doing. The focus of breathing practice is on developing awareness. This is important to remember. You want to allow the breath to breathe itself in its own natural and ever-changing rhythms, and your task is simply to be aware of it. As you begin this practice, remember to be patient with yourself. Like learning to play piano or basketball, giving a presentation, or learning any art or skill, it takes repeated practice. Remember the puppy we talked about. You want to remain relaxed and present and in touch with a kind and friendly attitude toward yourself. So take it one breath at a time. If you're able to be aware of only 2 or 3 breaths at first, this is fine. Whenever your attention has wandered, simply return to your breath again. Mindfulness of breathing begins this simply, and yet it is revolutionary. This is because rather than following lifelong patterns of being distracted or spacing out, you are actually training your mind in the art of attention just where you are. So now let's begin the awareness of breathing practice. Allow yourself to take your seat with dignity and graciousness. Establish a simple sense of presence. Let your body settle and your mind be at ease as best you can. Notice the state of your body and bring a kind attention to it. Perhaps fill it with that half smile of kindness. Now bring your attention to the fact of your breathing. Notice that it's always breathing quite naturally. Take 2 deep, relaxing breaths and feel your breath as it fills your body and releases. Now let the breath resume its natural rhythm. Notice where it is in your body that you most easily feel or sense the breath. It might be coolness or tingling in the nostrils or the back of the throat, or warmth on the upper lip. It might be the rise and fall of chest or belly. Or it might be the sensations of the whole body breathing. Wherever you can most easily feel the natural breath rhythm, rest your kind attention there. If it's difficult to feel the breath in any of these ways, you can put the palm of your hand on your belly and notice how it rises and falls with each breath. Now, let yourself feel the next 3 in and out breaths. And as you sense each breath, let the mind calm and the body relax. Now try 3 more breaths. Continue with this relaxed and calming attention on the breath for a time. And each time you notice your attention has wandered from the breath, gently bring it back. No judgment, no frustration, simply a kindly return like training the puppy. This breath, just now, continue to sense the breath. Come back whenever the attention has wandered. As you feel each breath, sense how it can calm and relax you as you naturally inhale and exhale. Now see if you can sense 4, 5, or 6 breaths in a row while relaxing with calm mindfulness. And don't worry if you get lost after even 1 or 2 breaths. You can just start again. Stay with the breath or return to it gently. Awareness of breathing is the art of steady focus and attention. Practice this simple mindfulness of breathing as you go about the rest of your day or evening. And in the next session, we'll take another step in this mindfulness practice.
don't you show them around? Show everyone who's here with the computer.
I will.
So Francis, give you a shout out. Cindy, I don't know Carolina. No,
Okay.
Cindy.
Cindy is here. This is Bart's, I guess, sort of sister-in-law
of sorts.
taking a nap there. We've got Ryan and Tina, and we have Rachel. Yay.
So Rachel actually was in New Jersey with Father Kennedy for a while, and does the chanting at a lot of our retreats. So it's good to have her with us. I would have used you maybe more formally. We've been set up for it. So, questions, comments?
Yeah, I just eaten breakfast before we meditated, and I noticed how much less room there was for the breath in my body.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Right.
How long do the Zen retreats after?
Sorry, I just had to share this with you. Do it again.
Who is that?
She's just naturally doing this.
Ah,
Okay.
Even though we do this every time.
raspberry.
Okay.
Yeah, well, chime in later.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
That's great. And
Thank you for that.
Matthew's
Okay, Matthew,
fur
go ahead.
baby has joined. Reminds me of Tina's cat, Pierre, who won't leave her alone. She had to come here to get a break to be able to meditate without her cat.
Okay, finish your question, Matthew.
Oh, I was just curious how long. It doesn't really matter. I noticed at the Zen retreats, they wait a pretty long time after lunch before meditating again.
Yeah,
Yes. That's the longest break
that
of
we
the
get.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
A couple of hours.
but it's really not necessary. Again, your breath is going to be what your breath is going to be. That's part of the acceptance of it. So it said, notice that your breath will be full sometimes and
Shallow.
sometimes. So the point is not in to get a full breath. It's if it's full, notice that it's full. If it's shallow, notice that it's shallow. And notice the qualitative difference. How does that impact your body? How does that impact your energy level, the quality of your awareness? So again, we want to impose that unconsciously, those kind of valuations that really don't need to be there. Just see what it is this moment. You'll never take the same breath twice. So
I was at a Buddhist retreat a number of years ago, many days, and one of the practices that they taught for breathing, which is especially useful if you are feeling very scattered and you're just, you just can't hold still, is to count your breaths. And they recommended counting your out breaths up to 21 and then counting back down again. So, 21, 20, 19, like that. And I found that there are times when I sit down to meditate and I just, there's that monkey is just dancing in my head. And this is a very helpful way to, I don't know that you would want to do it every time you meditate, but if you are feeling just really scattered, it's a helpful way to settle.
it is. So I brought a guy, type A personality, financial planner, to see Father Kennedy. He'd just been out with Sherry Huber on her thing on There's Nothing Wrong with You. So he's all excited. So he wants to immediately become advanced. So he goes, So what advanced techniques do you practice, Father Kenny? And he said, I count my breaths. And when I lose my track, I start at one again. So yeah, always available.
There was one man, must have been another type A personality, who was in this retreat. And after we learned after we learned this technique, he very proudly after breakfast the next day, you know, when we all got back together, he very proudly said that he was able to count to 100. And the and
No,
the,
we
med-
go there.
the meditation,
I win. I'm the serenest. Yay me.
yeah, well, the
Oh,
Rinpoche who was leading the next session didn't crack a smile. He didn't, absolutely nothing. And he didn't comment on that. All he said was, this is not a competition.
And it's so, this is what I mean by us turning plan B into plan A. We have something that totally invites us to be goalless, and we want to be the best goalless person that there ever was. So it's always a good reminder, and keep a sense of humor about when you find yourself doing those kind of things, because you will.
I fully feel that guy.
I know you do. Jerry
Jer-
wouldn't be Jerry without perfectionism. I mean, how could
Well,
we?
if he had had his brothers, this one guy, he would have gone around to everybody and said, how many breaths were you able to count? What did you get to? Did you get to 70? Did you?
And then spreadsheet it to compare the next day.
Right. Well, he clearly wanted a gold star, and and Rinpoche just totally dismissed it. All he said was, this isn't a competition, and he moved on to the next thing.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it. We offered a meditation course up at the college one time, and or several times. We usually had 10 or 12 up there, and one guy that always signed up, and you know, we just had to love him, and you know, his question, and he constantly wanted to know, you know, well, what was your mind thinking about during meditation? What were you thinking about? You know, and it was, yeah, like that's not really not the point. Yeah.
Yeah, he was basically looking for his next wife. I don't think he was that interested in yoga or meditation. So,
Oh man.
Well, crap, that's why I'm here.
well, hey, of course you are, Matthew. How's that working for you?
Not great.
Great.
well, count your breath and you see what happens, Matthew.
Yeah, I'm not sure this is your
Don't
group
give up,
for that,
bro.
Matthew, but okay.
You need help, call me. I'm here in Colorado. We can always work out something. Don't worry about
Oddly enough, I found it a little bit easier to stick with my breath today because I'm sick. So I was finding, a certain way that I was breathing was kind of causing this little tickle. And then on my exhale, I'd cough. I didn't want to cough because it was distracting. So then I'm kind of like breathing around that spot or trying like these different, like maybe if I don't mouth breathe, because I've been like mouth breathing for 2 days, which is so gross. So yeah, it was actually kind of interesting. I was like almost hyper focused on how I was breathing.
Right. A lot like you on your pain in your body.
Yeah.
So after I had COVID this last time, I don't know, what was 6 weeks ago, I developed some muscle spasms in my rib cage again. They're my old friend. And so my physical therapist has me not breathing exhaling as far in, because being a type A personality, I'm like, I'll get that belly button to touch that spine. Give me a goal. And so I am thinking this is where I stop instead of trying to push all the way through right now. So it makes me focus a little more on my breathing.
Mhm.
There's something that I heard that I don't have the source for, but the people tend to hold their breath when they're sitting at a computer and looking at a screen. And so what I've done is like when I'm like really jacked into work is set a little bit of timer to kind of ping. It's like, are you breathing while looking at the screen? Because it's noticeable.
Right.
Okay. So, and there's some things that you can do to ground you in awareness all day long. My teacher gave me the be aware of your feet on the ground all day long, being aware of your breath all day long. So look at the way you're breathing when you're driving your car.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at the way you're breathing when you're reading in a book. Look at the way you're breathing when your crazy sister calls you.
When you get a text
11
message
o'clock.
or waiting for
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
And see what happens to your breath. So that's great awareness. Just check in. I call them drive-by meditations. The down and dirty, stuck at a traffic light, boom, come into awareness. Walking into a building, locking your car, being ADD, I have to be mindful. And Linnell helps me with the checking it. Got your wallet, got your phone, got your keys, got your girlfriend, make sure I tick off all the boxes before I leave the house. So all these things are mindfulness. It's fun to play around with it. So that I like that, Ryan. Good application.
Another one is I try to do everything 80 all day. Try to do everything 85% slower than I normally do. So it's always constantly, you know what I mean?
80. That's scary. That's scary, Ryan. I gotta see what that looks like.
You'll never know.
Yeah, I know.
If I'm 80 or
Okay. I want to see you busk at 85% slower. See what that
Oh,
looks
yeah.
like.
That's what I heard. In 2020, Dr. Cat gifted us with the book on breath, and it's still my go-to. And this week, I was reminding my classes of the most premier breath that you could possibly breathe, which he said after years of research. This is James Nestor, who wrote the book. Said, I'm just almost embarrassed to say, after this book and years of research and this and that,
In
he
culture,
said,
studying
what
breathing,
it all
cult-
comes
in
down
every
to,
culture.
is a 5-second inhale and a 5-second exhale as your default breath throughout the day. Now, that's not going to be during yoga class or maybe riding your bike or whatever. But I invite my people then throughout your day, just pause, check in, and create that 5-second inhale, 5-second exhale breathing pattern. And, the idea is to teach your body then to breathe 8,600 times a day rather than 25,000 breaths in a day, which is what we're doing when we're breathing in a pretty shallow way and not paying attention.
Yeah,
that's huge. I mean, that's almost cutting it, to 1/3. So it's a big deal.
it's a huge deal.
It's a big deal to breathe less. So a 5-second inhale, a 5-second exhale is 6 breaths per minute.
Another tie-in on the importance of breath. How do you keep a person whose heart stopped alive? You put them on a ventilator. If you keep their lungs going, their heart's going to keep beating. When you slow your breath, you slow your heart rate. Now, a large part of what's going to determine how long you live is how many times your heart beats. It's only got a life expectancy of so many beats per lifetime. If you are in fight or flight, you're going to have an accelerated heart rate, which means you're actively shortening your life every time you allow your breath to stay at that rate. So consciously slowing your breath slows your heart rate down too. So these are beautiful things. You're doing a lot of stuff here.
Well, these are practices for longevity.
They're practices for longevity. So when people come in, I say the number one thing you can do to extend your life is decrease your stress. Stay ventral, stay out of fight or flight. So the one thing you can control in all that is the breathing. Does that make any sense? Again, why it's so fundamental. Keep the flow going. How we doing? Looks like we're here on time, and we got a burning desire. Okay, then we'll wrap it up. Are we going to meet next week? We're going to try and do one before we
Unless you hear from us otherwise, we will meet next week.
And do you know what next Sunday is? It's Star
Cinco de
Wars Day.
Mayo.
No, it's Star
It is
Wars
Cinco
Day.
de Mayo.
No.
May the 4th be with you.
Be with you. Yes, May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th, that's Saturday. Not Sunday.
Yeah.
It's what day?
May the 4th. May the 4th
Fourth be with you. It's Star Wars Day.
4th.
May
Okay.
4th.
I
How
have
old
my
are
saber.
you,
Sunday is
Timothy?
Cinco de Mayo.
I have my lightsaber, so don't worry. I'm
Oh, okay. Just checking. Just checking.
Oh, I love it.
Feel the force, be the force.
Yay.
Hit the force.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
Got a t-shirt for that.
no
Okay.
doubt.
We got some good voices in the room today. We should do a good home. So
Okay, so
should be
unmute
fun.
yourselves.
Unmute yourself. Lively up
Before you
yourself.
unmute
You
yourself.
liven up yourself.
All right, take a deep breath in.
Love everybody.
Damon.
That's her favorite. That's her favorite part.
Her favorite part.
Julie's granddaughter. I'm guessing. Yeah. All right.
Have a
Aren't you adorable?
Happy Jazz Fest. I don't know what the fuck that means, but everything
Everywhere.
Happy yes.
Jazz Fest.
Yes.
Love you guys. I'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Gotcha.
I'm headed to the couch.
I hope you